next level in your body after the whole body is the fractal branching network. And this isn't as complicated as it sounds, but it's a technically correct term. And what this does is it connects the whole body to each cell. So it's basically the everything in between. In this fractal branching network, there's basically 5 components to it: the blood or circulatory system, the lymph or lymphatic system, the nervous system, the lungs or the tracheobronchial trees, and the living matrix, connective tissue matrix, which is this kind of the home of the meridians. So what PEMF does is it opens up all your fractal branching networks. And we hear a lot about PEMF therapy for microcirculation. And what that is it's opening up the fractal branching network of your circulatory system, down to the capillary level even, by increasing nitric oxide. And we'll look at that in a minute. But actually, it's working on all these different fractal branching networks. And what this does is it helps the body and the flow of energy and information to take place between all your cells, between all your organs and your body to your cells to your body and the environment. And again, it happens at split-second speeds. And if there's any blockages in these networks, ill health is a result. And we will look at that. But let's first kind of look at what a fractal branching network is. So first of all, fractals are self-similar objects, object or quantity that displays self-similarity in a somewhat technical sense on all scales. So fractal branching is a type of fractals where bifurcations are taking place. So a bifurcation, simply put, is a splitting of one main body into 2 or more parts, kind of like a highway that splits into 2 and then maybe splits again. So in your body, you can see this image here of 5 iterations of a fractal branch. So you got something splitting, and splitting again, splitting again, splitting again. So let's briefly take a tour of these 5 fractal branching networks. And then we're going to really focus on the circulatory system, because a lot of research with PEMF is with microcirculation. But just know that when we talk about that example, it actually applies to all 5 of these networks. So the first, which we'll look at in more detail, is the blood or circulatory system. So you have your arteries, which branch into arterioles, keep branching, 12 or 13 times or so down to the capillary level. The next is the lungs, and the tracheobronchial tree is just amazing. In fact, it looks like a tree when you turn it upside down. There's 23 levels or stories of branching, and this gives the lungs basically the surface area of a tennis court. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention this, but a fractal branching network, why it's seen so much in nature, is that it maximizes a surface area for a given volume, and it allows a given volume to have an interconnection between every other part of that volume, like nothing else can do. So there's a good reason why nature uses this in trees and rivers, and there's just so many examples in nature. So back to the body, the third is the nervous system, in the brains, and here you can see a few images of fractal branching in the neurons in the brains. The next is the lymphatic system, which, kind of like the circulatory system, it doesn't quite branch to the level that the circulatory system does, but very close. This is the home of your immune systems, as well as sort of like a sewage system in your body. Most of your cells are bathing in lymph, not blood. Blood is carrying nutrients to the capillaries, which diffuse into the lymph, into the cells. And the fifth is the living matrix, the connective tissue matrix. And I've showed this little image before. And this connects you from your skin to the very nucleus of every cell. So your connective tissue is a fractal branching network that branches all the way down into the nucleus of each cell. So it doesn't just stop at the cells like the circulatory system does. It keeps branching all the way down to the nucleus. So health sounds simple. Just keep your fractal branching networks open where energy and information can flow freely. So what's the problem? The problem is we don't. In fact, considering 4 of the 5 leading causes of death are due to these fractal branching networks getting sort of dammed up. I tell people your health is damned, when these fractal branching networks, but it's damned with 2 M's because they get blocked or dammed up. Let's just go through all 5 and look at diseases that can result because of blockages or a damming of these fractal branching networks. Number 1 is blood vessels. So heart disease is the number 1 cause of death. Stroke is the number 5 cause of death. Both related to blockages mainly in the fractal branching network of your circulatory system. Number 2, lungs, emphysema, COPD, which is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. That's related to the number 3 cause of death in the U.S. Okay, again, due to blockages or a breakdown in this fractal branching network. In fact, if you look at scans of people that have these COPD, different pulmonary diseases, you can see this fractal branching network basically just broken down. It's just not, all the alveoli just aren't able to get oxygen. Nervous system, paralysis, neuropathy. Think of all the diseases related to the nervous system sort of breaking down. The lymphatic system, this is where your immune system resides. So number 2 cause of death is cancer. And pretty much everybody with cancer has very stagnant lymph. And their immunity is very low. Their immune count could get down to just single digits even. That's number 2 cause of death. And the living matrix is the home of the meridian. So as we know, meridian energy blockages can be related to all these other diseases as well. So that's 4 of the 5 leading causes of death are due to blockages or breakdowns in these networks. The only other cause of death that's not there is accidents. And of course, accidents are just accidents. In a nutshell, PEMF therapy opens up your fractal branching network. Think of it like this. Health is like a river. Disease is like a swamp. So take a look at these images here. Look at the image of a swamp and a river. What's the difference? A swamp, there's no flow. Water is just stagnant, and you get all this overgrowth of mold and fungus, and the water becomes mucky. Certainly you can't drink it. Where when you got a living river where everything's flowing, the water is clean and pristine, what PEMF therapy does is it turns your body more into like a mountain stream, and it gets rid of all the swamps. Because this is a really good analogy, because people with cancer and different diseases, they have blockages in their fractal branching networks, which literally create pockets like cesspools where they got infection, toxicity. The body's just not able to get fluids in to get the toxins out. PEMF is opening up all these networks, and I want to look specifically at microcirculation because microcirculation has the most research with PEMF, and it really illustrates how well PEMF works to open up all these networks. And it's working on 3 things. It actually works on all 3 aspects of your circulatory system, which is the vessels themselves. PEMF therapy has been proven, research proven, to increase nitric oxide. Nitric oxide causes vasodilation. So it widens your blood vessels, so again, the blood can flow through. And a similar thing happens with the lymph. Number 2 is the red blood cells itself. So the red blood cells are flowing within the blood vessels. And what PEMF therapy does is by increasing the cellular voltage potential, it actually dissipates what's called the Rouleau effect, meaning your blood cells will stack like coins and get clumpy and lumpy when the cellular voltage is low. And that actually inhibits the red blood cells from holding on to oxygen. And because they clump together, it makes it difficult for them to get through the capillaries, because red blood cells can only get through the capillaries one at a time. And the third thing it does is it lowers the viscosity of water. PEMF therapy and magnetic fields have been proven to lower the surface tension of water, to make water wetter. And this is why I tell people, put your water on your pillow pad or a PEMF therapy mat, because it will both energize the water and lower the surface tension. So think about it. When you open up the blood vessels, make the water more slippery or wetter, and help the red blood cells to all separate from one another so they can hold a maximum amount of oxygen. Those 3 things together are just the perfect storm for opening up your circulation. And again, heart disease and stroke are the number 1 and number 5 killers in the U.S. This can be a lifesaver, and we have a lot of testimonials that are a result, in my opinion, of the enhanced microcirculation that results from using PEMF therapy. In fact, look at some of these live blood. I don't have time to get into all of it, but we've had many doctors and practitioners do before and after with live blood. And a picture is worth 1,000 words here. You can see on each of these cases on the left, before IMRS or before PEMF therapy, you can see the clumping of the cells. After, you can see them all they're rounder, they're more energetic. It just improves the flow of the blood and enhances the ability to hold on to oxygen. Okay, so now we've seen how PEMF therapy works on the whole body to increase the body's energy, how PEMF therapy opens up all your fractal branching networks to help to improve the flow of energy from the body down into the cells. So now let's look at how PEMF actually energizes and recharges your cells directly. So I tell people very simply, PEMF acts like a whole body battery charger. Batteries are cells and cells are battery. 2 or more cells equals a battery. I mean, literally. And so it's appropriate that the word cell is used for our human cells. In fact, we have around 37 trillion cells. So here's a question. Take a look at this image here of grapes and raisins. And this kind of is a nice segue to what we just talked about with microcirculation. Are your cells grapes or are they raisins? And you could see from those before and after live blood pictures that people that had the Rouleau effect, all their cells were all crinkly and crunched together, where after the PEMF, they all kind of ballooned out and they have the healthy glow and they look more like grapes. So PEMF therapy literally can help to turn your cells from raisins into grapes. And this next image here further proves the point. You can see on the left it says these are healthy cells, and on the right these are sick cells. So what PEMF therapy is doing is it's literally recharging your cellular voltage, your batteries. Dr. Otto Warburg discovered quite a while ago that cells maintain a cellular voltage across their membrane, which is analogous to the voltage of a battery, and this is called the transmembrane potential, or TMP. He found that healthy cells have a measurable voltage from 70 to 100 millivolts, with the heart cells having the highest voltage, and he found that as people got progressively sicker, their voltage dropped. Just chronic fatigue, for example, might have 30 to 50 millivolts, and way down to cancer, you can see 15 to 20 millivolts. Pretty much anything less than 15 millivolts resulted in death. So there's kind of a limit to how low the cellular energy can get before your body just gives out. And it's like a dead battery in your flashlight. It's just the light goes out. And so very simply, PEMF therapy is recharging that voltage. And by doing so, it's basically giving your cells more energy, which is giving your body more energy. So again, health is essentially an energy game, and there's nothing better at recharging your energy than PEMF therapy. The way that it works as a wireless energy transfer system, as we said before, the cells resonate to that 0 to 50 hertz range, that's basis of the earth frequency. So you want a PEMF device that's going to work with the low frequencies. What's happening is the magnetic fields are sweeping back and forth, and the sodium-potassium pump, you get a net positive charge on the outside of the cell. So this charge separation is by very definition what a battery does, is it separates charge, which is potential energy, and this is one of the fundamental reasons that we're healthy or we're sick. In fact, Dr. Otto Warburg did not find any sick people with a high voltage, and he didn't find any healthy people with low cellular voltage. So there's a direct correlation. Now, taking the idea of microcirculation further down, take a look at this image here. This is called electroporation. And what PEMF therapy does is it makes your cells more porous, meaning it's helping to get further, because the microcirculation ends in the capillaries, but the nutrients and oxygen still have to get to the cell and into the cell. So again, the sodium-potassium pump is one of those channels that PEMF therapy helps to open up. But all your oxygen, your carbohydrates, proteins, fats, enzymes, hormones, all kinds of stuff has to get in and out of the cell. And metabolic waste products have to get out. This is a very visual picture. Look at how PEMF therapy opens up the cells in a healthy way. It's sort of like opening all the doors and windows in your house to air things out, just to get the fresh air in and all the toxic stuff out. And that is a really good metaphor for what PEMF is doing at the cell level. Now let's kind of conclude this video by looking at how PEMF therapy, now we're going from the cell membrane down to the mitochondria. Each cell has many organelles and around 100 or so mitochondria, and the mitochondria are the principal sources of energy in the body at the very deepest level. What's exciting about PEMF therapy is it's working in both directions with ATP. And ATP is like a little molecular battery that can be recharged, and then the body uses the energy as it needs it. PEMF, by increasing the flow of oxygen and nutrients into the cell in the mitochondria, helps through the Krebs cycle to produce ATP, and through enhancing ATPase, PEMF therapy also helps to release the energy from the ATP. So it's going in both directions to really maximize energy production at the cellular and even molecular level. And remember, ATP is the principal currency of energy in the body. Everything in your body needs energy. Health is an energy game, and physiologically, ATP and the TMP cellular voltage we talked about are probably the most primary fundamental sources of energy in the body. So I hope you enjoyed this video and you can see why PEMF therapy is the best of the best in energy medicine for recharging your body battery and giving you more energy and vitality. Stay tuned for the next module on gravity, the sixth element of health. In this very important module, we're going to look at all the things you can do to improve your posture, your mobility, your flexibility, so that you can stay active in your 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond. So stay tuned for that.